So the idea of, even in my own home, my grandmother who lived with us, we had one room which was like an altar. We had the statue of Mary, a huge statue like this of the Virgin Mary, and we had statues of Joseph and statues of all these saints, Saint Anthony, and if we lost something, we used to pray to Saint Anthony. If we needed something else, we prayed to another saint. But we just everything was revolved around this worship of these statues. If I did something wrong, my grandmother would come and she would take the holy water and she'd be throwing it at me to get rid of my sins. And she would yell at me in German. When I became Muslim, I started praying, openly in my home. And my grandmother used to call me Yahud. And Yahud in Arabic means Jew, but in German it also means Jew. So my grandmother she didn't know, she's born in 1905, she doesn't know what a Muslim is. She comes from Germany, and so she would see me and say, "Oh, du bist Yahud, Yahud." She would constantly be calling me a Jew because I would be praying like a Muslim, and she didn't know what I was, but I wasn't a Christian in her mind. So it was really, and she would throw the holy water on me as if she was throwing holy water on the devil. Because the holy water in the Christian church is like to keep away the devil, to keep away Satan. And so you want to throw holy water on a Satan because he's supposed to, it's supposed to harm the devil. It's supposed to be like, painful. So she was always throwing holy water on me when she saw me because she thought I'm a bad girl. So it reminded me of paganism, truly, because here I was worshiping a statue on my knees and praying to a statue for help. I wasn't thinking that beyond this statue. I was thinking, okay, this is the church was filled with statues, and we had statues in our home, and every time we thought that something was wrong, we did something bad. This was the style of worship was coming from my ancestors. When I look back in history and I think of Rome, and I think of the statues, and I think about pre-Islam when they were worshiping the statues, and the people were bringing statues from all parts of the Arabian Peninsula and from all over the Middle East, again to worship and the pagan gods, and just different names. So although Alhamdulillah, the Virgin Mary was truly someone that we believe in, and of course we believe in Jesus as a prophet. It was this twisted ideology that caused us to believe that that almost as if the statues are going to help us, and so our focus was not on Allah. The real critical time was when I went to India, and I saw with my own eyes 3,500 gods that the Indians worship. 3,500 gods. I have every block or every 5 minutes you see a statue with incense, and you see flowers around a god, and people stop and they're worshiping, and they worship the cow, and it was overwhelming to see such paganism. And then when you go into a place like the Taj Mahal, which was a mosque, and you hear the call to the adhan, the call to the one God, the call to the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it can magnify everything that's happening outside, which is so kuffar, which is so paganist behavior. You have, the Buddhists and the Hindus and all the different religions, and then you go to this one place and they say La ilaha illallah, and they call Allah's name, and you feel the oneness. And that was the biggest polarizing effect for me, because outside of that mosque was complete paganism and worship of idols, and then in that one place of worship was the oneness of Allah. So in my own home, it was quite difficult because my mother thought I had gone backwards, that I had taken some religion that's backward. Instead of going forward, she's being European, she's wondering, how am I going backward? And when I took Shahada, I put my hijab on immediately the same day that I took Shahada. And this was very, very hard for my mom. because she didn't like the hijab. I was young, and she wanted me to show my hair. And I can remember we would go shopping or to the supermarket, and my mom would just pull my hijab off in the supermarket or pull it off in the store and say, I want people to see my beautiful daughter. And she would constantly be sabotaging my Islam. One of the very painful experiences in my early days of Islam was getting up to make wudu and to pray at 5 in the morning, and my mom would be waiting at the bathroom, and she would scare me and tell me, wouldn't let me pass to make wudu to pray, and she used to tell me I'm going to die from a disease from washing so much, because we prayed 5 times a day, and she thought it was very sick and strange, and how could I stop my life in the middle of the day just to pray? How crazy I was to stop my life in the middle of the day and just pray. And the phone is ringing or someone's coming to see me, and I would stop to pray. It was very complicated and very difficult within her home to be Muslim, and I found that I had to move on my own to really practice this deen. It was very challenging. So what happened is I was working in New York. I am an interpreter for the deaf. I took a job in New York City, and I used to interpret I had 11 deaf Holocaust survivors, and they were my clients. And I was taking care of their personal needs, and I was hiring people to facilitate in their home, and I also was teaching Judaism with a rabbi to these Jewish deaf Holocaust survivors from Rome, from Austria, from Germany, from Poland, from Russia, and these were my clients. At that time, I was feeling, in myself, I know I'm a Muslim, but I didn't know how to become Muslim. I didn't know what to do. I didn't even know who to talk to. I didn't have any Muslim friends. And one night I took a taxi, and the taxi had the Quran playing, but I didn't know it's Quran. So when I got into the taxi, I said, "Oh, I like that music." And the taxi driver turned around and really gave me a very sharp, strong look and was very angry and said, "That is not music. That's the Quran." And I was very silent and felt it was something big. So from that taxi drive, from the location he picked me up until the place he brought me, we discussed, and I talked about my travels all over the world and how I felt all the time I was a Muslim inside me, but I didn't know how to become Muslim, but I knew I was Muslim, but I didn't know how to become Muslim. So he started to explain to me, you need to go to a mosque, and you need to take a shahada, and you need to meet Muslim people. So he gave me the name of a person to call, and it was another person who had reverted to Islam. And then he said, you don't have to pay the taxi, you're free. So the next day, I called the person immediately and said, I want to be Muslim, and tell me, what do I do? So they invited me to come spend the weekend with them. And I must have taken Shahada so many times with them, telling them I'm Muslim and I want to be Muslim, and until they brought me to the mosque. And I was very, very excited because it was in Queens, New York. And at that time, many years ago, they just prayed in masallas. There were little houses that people bought, and they turned them into a mosque because they couldn't afford to build a mosque, or there wasn't enough Muslims to gather enough money to successfully build mosques and all over. The people were just still, migrating to this country, but they hadn't established enough. So they turned these houses into these places of worship. And I went to the basement, and the imam was there, and I took the shahada, and immediately I felt so proud. I felt that I was an ambassador for this religion. I felt like I had a duty and I had a purpose and I had a direction and I had a goal, and that my whole life had meaning. Something that I didn't believe before, that I had so much to offer the world because I wanted to bring so many people to understand this religion and how beautiful it was to be a Muslim. I put hijab on immediately the day I took Shahada, and I remember going back to work the next day because I worked with all Jewish people in New York. The company was Jewish, my clients were Jewish, everybody was Jewish, my boss was Jewish, and they see me wearing a black hijab, coming to work and being fully clothed, and it was very shocking. They didn't know what to say, they didn't know what to do, but obviously they knew I was Muslim because my appearance was quite different. You know, subhanallah, Allahu Akbar, Allah, you know, He guides the heart. Allah yahdi man yasha. I was strong. I was very, very strong. I had wanted to be Muslim, but just never knew how.